Hello, I'm Tom Roberts. I would like to talk with you today about one of the retreats that I offer, called Brush Wisdom. And before we go any further into this, I'd like to address two of the most common questions that I get about this retreat. And they're very good questions. The first one, and the most frequent one, is, do I have to be an artist? Do I have to have any artistic skill? What if I can only draw stick figures? Do I have to have any artistic background? And the answer is no, none at all. You do not have to be an artist, because this retreat is not about being an artist or having to develop artistic skill or anything like that. It's a contemplative meditative retreat using brushes as a contemplative tool. Certainly I am not an artist. And while I have taken several retreats with master calligraphers over the years, I am not a master calligrapher. So you will not be judged or compared or anything like that. So come with a sense of openness and willingness to explore how you can use other kinds of things in your life as contemplative tools. And in this retreat, how you use a brush, ink, and paper to cultivate a deeper sense of contemplative centering. The second question I get asked is, so what is brush wisdom? Brush wisdom has evolved from the ancient techniques of Chinese and Japanese calligraphy and has come into the United States. It is frequently referred to as shodo in Japanese, which means the way of the brush. And it has evolved more and more into a contemplative meditative tool for people of any faith. Any spiritual journey that they may be on. There's no requirement there. Just a sense of willingness to explore and find out how that relationship between brush, ink, and paper really reflects my body, mind, spirit state. So in a Brush Wisdom retreat, what we learn to do is to relate to what they call the three treasures. And the three treasures are a brush, ink, and paper. And the way we relate to those is a direct reflection of our internal spiritual, mental, physical, emotional state. And as we continue to refine our relationship to the brush, the ink, and the paper, we find that it refines our internal state to a greater sense of patience and openness, calm and compassion. And one of the nice things about this retreat, it isn't about doing anything right. It isn't about coloring in the lines or anything like that. It's about allowing this interaction to be a very deep and important expression of your spiritual journey. So when we're looking at going through a Brush Wisdom retreat, the only requirement is to be open and receptive. Because as we move through this, we find that we see how each brush stroke is really a way that we relate, not only to ourselves, but then to the larger world. As you saw me drawing at the very beginning, I'll show you what came up. This is what they call the enso, and we practice this a great deal, and it seems rather repetitive. But as you progress with this, you really then begin to see how a simple brushstroke represents your body, mind, spiritual state inside. Are you agitated? Are you happy? Are you relaxed? Are you tense? Are you fearful? Are you perfectionistic? You know, whatever it might be. And so you can begin to look at each one and find out more and more deeply about where you are with your mind, body, and spirit. One of the things we don't do with Brush Wisdom is we don't do something to the paper. I don't get a brush out and make that circle on the paper. It's much the same way that when Michelangelo was asked about his famous statue of David, he referred to that as, I released David from the stone. David was already in there. I just had to relate in a way to release him. And that's the approach we're going to take with this. Is we're not going to do something to the paper. We're going to sit in a sense of contemplative quiet and calm and see what you release. See what comes out of the paper as you begin to relate more wisely with the brush, the ink, and the paper. So as I stated, this was the one I was doing when we first started, and I will do another one. Get some ink in here, get the excess ink off. I'm using a medium-sized brush, and I will show you some of the other brushes that we will use. So I create a right attitude. I become open and curious about what is going to be released here. I have loaded up my brush with ink, and now I'm in the presence of a white sheet of paper. I'm not going to do anything to this paper. With the right attitude, and clearing my mind of expectations and judgments and fears, I can release the enso, or the circle. So, I take a deep breath, hold the brush, and then when I'm ready, I take another deep breath. Okay. We're not trying for perfection here. We're trying for expression. That's all. Just expression. So that's what the first one looked like. This is what the second one looked like. Now, do I compare them? Absolutely not. Because the state of mind I was in doing this is different than the state of mind I was in doing this. And they reflect something very different. Okay? I'm not looking at, do I draw a perfect circle? Did I do it right? But you look at it and say, so what does this represent in terms of my body, mind, spirit state? And as you become more and more contemplative in your relationship with the brush, the ink, and the paper, you find that your strokes become more a reflection of you and how you relate. It's not a matter of getting better or what have you, but you begin to look at it and smile and say, yeah, that's more like it. And I don't know what the more like it is, but it will relate to something important for you and where you are in your spiritual journey. Now, as I said, I was using a medium-sized brush here. There are also very small brushes with more of a point. This is for people who wish to have more clearly defined lines, more control over the ink in their relationship to the paper. And then you have, one of these bad boys, a larger brush. This is made of goat hair, and obviously with the fact that it isn't pointed, it has flat top. This offers a greater sense of playfulness and expressiveness as you relate with the brush, the ink, and the paper. And so each brush is something that is called to you in terms of how that expression is going to come out into the paper. Now, the end result of brush wisdom, and so, okay, so what difference does this make? What difference this makes is as you learn how each brush stroke is a brush stroke in and of itself that represents where you are at any given time, with your body, mind, and spirit, that you begin to go out into the world and recognize that each and every moment, every experience, every interaction is a brushstroke. So I hope this helps with helping you be more comfortable, and hope to see you at a Brush Wisdom Retreat. Thank you very much.